Today's video is brought to you by Forever Entertainment, the publisher for two games I really loved on the Nintendo Switch, Panzer Dragoon Remake and Thief Simulator. Forever Entertainment is now getting into the physical game world with some of their titles, which is a great way to preserve these games after things like the Nintendo Switch eShop have gone down. They are offering both limited and unlimited versions of games, and just announced both a collector's edition for Panzer Dragoon Remake and Thief Simulator. There's even a super edition of Panzer Dragoon Remake that comes with like a freaking statue that I really want, so I might end up triple dipping on this game. They will be adding more games to this as well, and once again, it is a great way to preserve some Nintendo Switch games because the all-digital age definitely has its drawbacks. Check out the link in the description box down below to see what games they have available to order, and thank you once again to Forever Entertainment for sponsoring this video. So with 2020 quickly coming to a close, we of course have to look towards 2021. And I feel that this is going to be a pivotal year for the Nintendo Switch. It's something that we've talked about before on this channel, but in today's video, I basically want to highlight 5 things that Nintendo needs to do to ensure that the Nintendo Switch manages to stay relevant and manages to stay strong in the year of 2021. Obviously, we're going to start seeing a lot of PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X titles in the year of 2021, but I don't think all hope is lost. I think Nintendo can still have a dominant 2021 as they have had since the Nintendo Switch first launched. What's up guys, I'm RGT85. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. But without any further ado, let's talk about 5 things that Nintendo needs to do in 2021 to stay dominant with the Nintendo Switch. The first thing we're going to talk about is the Nintendo Switch Online service, which has been a bit spotty to say the least. It's not the worst thing out there in the world, but considering that you're paying $20 a year for this service, it's okay to expect and demand a bit more. And I really feel that this is one area that Nintendo just sort of lacks a vision in which it can do to enhance this Nintendo Switch Online service, and we've seen some seeds planted before. Games like Tetris 99 and Super Mario Bros. 35th were great additions to Nintendo Switch Online. These games were Nintendo Switch Online exclusive games, meaning that you had to have the service in order to play these games, and I thought it was a very attractive offer for Nintendo Switch Online customers to have this added benefit, to have these added games. But realistically, there's a lot more that Nintendo can do with this. One area I would like them to focus on is the free game trials that they occasionally do, where you can play a game for roughly a week or so, the entire game for free, and then if you like the game and want to experience more from that game, you can purchase it on the eShop at a discounted price. Considering the amount of games that have come out on the Nintendo Switch, considering the amount of third-party titles that have now been available, such as Overwatch and Disgaea 5 that were available during this promotion, I think Nintendo really needs to expand upon this. Let's be realistic. A lot of these games are sort of forgotten about, so what better way to sort of drum up sales for these games than by offering a free trial of these games? It's really something that Nintendo just seems to be dipping their toes into, but I think it's something that they really need to just expand upon because it's an attractive piece of information. It's an attractive thing for consumers who want to check out Nintendo Switch Online to have this incentive in order to do such. Of course, there's things like folders and themes that need to be added as well, but I feel like these are areas that Nintendo can really work on. These are areas that Nintendo has obviously shown interest in exclusive games for Nintendo Switch Online and exclusive week-long game demos for Nintendo Switch Online, so it's time to expand upon that. It's time to do this more regularly. There's no excuse for it to be only done once every few months or so. You could do 1 or 2 games a month very easily with this, and I think it's something Nintendo needs to focus on. Of course, the second thing we're going to talk about is something that should come as really no surprise to anyone, but that's new games. When looking at the Nintendo Switch lineup for 2021, well, there's really not much stuff when it comes to first-party games. The only first-party game that has been announced for a 2021 release is, of course, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, which is a re-release of a Wii U game that has some additional added content into it, and it does have online multiplayer, which the first Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U did not feature. So that's all well and good, but we need to start talking about what games are coming out in 2021. Of course, there's games like No More Heroes 3, which was slotted for 2021, Bravely Default 2 as well, but I'm talking about the games that are missing in action. Games like Bayonetta 3, games like Metroid Prime 4. Where are these games? What is going on with these games? Can we have some updates on these games? And what else are you going to manage to release in the year of 2021? Now, this sort of goes into the next point as well, which is the celebration of The Legend of Zelda, because The Legend of Zelda will be turning 35, much like Super Mario Bros. Turned 35 in 2020. And really, the celebration for Mario was kind of a bit weak. Sure, we got the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection, which was a fantastic compilation of two great games and one sort of okayish game that, you know, some people like. I'm just not really one of those people. And of course, we got Super Mario Bros. 35, but it just felt a bit hollow. It felt a bit rushed. And of course, the limited availability of these games that are going away on March 31st of 2021 really just sort of shows that maybe they're gearing up for something pretty big. That's of course something we've also talked about on the channel, but you need to put a strong focus on Zelda and a strong emphasis on Zelda. Obviously, ending the year with Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity was a very smart move. It's one of the best 2020 games for the Nintendo Switch, but The Legend of Zelda is a franchise that is finally picking up steam in terms of sales. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild was the best-selling Zelda game to date and just absolutely crushes the other Zelda games in terms of sales. So Nintendo really needs to capitalize on this. I want to see games that from the Legend of Zelda franchise brought back. I want to see Skyward Sword in HD with no motion controls, or at least optional motion controls. I know it was baked into the game, but whatever, you can get around it. Nintendo can figure out a way. I want to see games like Ocarina of Time be re-released, and I will hopefully want to see The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 release in 2021 as well. That would be a huge title for Nintendo to bring to the table to sort of combat whatever the PlayStation brands and the Xbox brands are doing. It's definitely a game that's been in development for quite a while. It's obviously going to be using the Breath of the Wild engine as well, so I feel like this is something that is within reason. I feel like this is something that is a probability, and it would just be a great way to celebrate Zelda's 35th anniversary. Having Link in the forefront of what the Nintendo Switch is doing in 2021 would be great for both fans of the Zelda franchise and for fans of the Nintendo Switch. Going back to the Nintendo Switch's online service, I feel like this is something that can be expanded upon in a different way than we initially talked about. And I feel that it's time to add more consoles and more games to the Nintendo Switch's online service. Yes, we have NES and Super NES games right now, and admittedly, they're very cool. It's a great way to play some classic games. But the sporadic release of these games is definitely a bit of a damper, considering, well, how many games released on the NES and the Super NES? Plus, Nintendo has so many lineage consoles that they can tap into. Now, the train of thought is that Game Boy will potentially be the next console, with Game Boy Advance sort of leading the way, and that would be a great thing. But I feel like there's so much more Nintendo can do with this. When you look at the Virtual Console on the Wii or the Wii U, these were so in-depth. There were so many consoles, there were so many games that you could simply pick up and play and just purchase these games, but now that you've added it into the subscription service of the online thing, it seems like it's been more of an afterthought. One of Nintendo's strongest things is its back catalog of games. There's a reason why these games constantly get re-released, like the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. Did that struggle in sales or anything? No, people absolutely loved it. People love checking out classic Nintendo titles that they grew up playing. And while I don't feel that this needs to sort of supersede releasing new titles, I do think it's a great way to increase the value of Nintendo Switch's online service, and there's a ton of untapped potential within that. It's something that Nintendo just seems to not really care about all that much, which is strange considering, like I said, the Virtual Console on the Wii and Wii U was just so strong. Where are the N64 titles? Where's the GameCube titles? We all know that the Nintendo Switch is capable of handling these sort of things, and I feel like it's time for Nintendo to really go balls deep into this and really expand upon the service of the Nintendo Switch Online by adding in new consoles to the Nintendo Switch. So we've talked about 4 key areas thus far. Improve the general Nintendo Switch Online service by adding more incentive for people to want to sign up. Of course, new games for 2021, that should go without saying. The celebration of Zelda's 35th anniversary is a very important thing and needs to be treated with love and respect, and adding more consoles to the Nintendo Switch's online service would really sort of expand the value and of course give people more reason to keep playing their Nintendo Switch. But the 5th thing is sort of the most controversial thing. It's something that a lot of people have been talking about for a very long time, and I think 2021 is the year that it ends up happening, and that is a new revamped Nintendo Switch model. Look, let's be realistic. The Nintendo Switch is built on mobile technology. Mobile technology is some of the fastest moving stuff in the world. The Tegra chip has already been well enhanced since the original release of the Nintendo Switch. Just look at something like the Nvidia Shield Pro TV, which is capable of upscaling images to up to 4K. There's no rhyme or reason for the Nintendo Switch to not be using this upgraded chip, especially considering that the NVIDIA Shield Pro TV is $199. You could easily put this in your Nintendo Switch or a Nintendo Switch Lite system to increase visual fidelity when in handheld mode, and most importantly, when playing it in docked mode. There's so many things happening right now with the Nintendo Switch. There's been so many rumors that have been circulating about this, that Nintendo is telling people to work on 4K games. But we really are starting to see the absolute limits of the Nintendo Switch reach in terms of technological stuff. A game like Doom Eternal, I don't think that game could necessarily look any better on the standard Nintendo Switch hardware. A game like Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity obviously struggles in some areas in terms of frame rate and texture pop-in, that I feel like a Nintendo Switch revision, a Nintendo Switch Pro, some sort of upgraded Nintendo Switch model utilizing the same technology just with an improved upon chip is the way to go. It's a great way to get rid of the Joy-Con problem. It's a great way to upgrade the Nintendo Switch dock. And most importantly, Nintendo themselves have said that they want to elongate the Nintendo Switch's life cycle. How are you going to elongate a system's life cycle without including new hardware? The Nintendo Switch will be turning 4 years old in March of 2021. It's definitely time to see some sort of refresh. If you want this system to last another 4 years, you're going to have to upgrade this hardware, or else realistically, it only has a good year or two left in terms of what it could bring to the table. Alright, so those are 5 areas that I think Nintendo needs to focus on in 2021 to ensure that the Nintendo Switch is still a success. Can you imagine just releasing a ton of games, having a bunch of Legend of Zelda related stuff, along with new hardware and improved online? Like, it would be absolutely massive. People would be picking up a Nintendo Switch, possibly trading in their old Nintendo Switch to get this upgraded model, and they would keep up with the Joneses, because the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are obviously very powerful systems. You don't need to combat that sort of power. You just need to have more modern features. You just need to have things like the potential for 4K upscaling. Of course, there's so many rumors about new screens coming to the Nintendo Switch. It's definitely going to be a very exciting year, like we've talked about, but I really feel like these are 5 areas that Nintendo needs to focus on to ensure Nintendo's dominance in 2021. But let me know in the comments section down below what you think about this. What are some areas that you think Nintendo needs to focus on? What would you like to see them do within the year? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. Once again, I want to give a huge thank you to Forever Entertainment for sponsoring this video. Be sure to check out their website in the description box down below. I'm really going to mess around and get that Panzer Dragoon Remake Physical Edition. I need that statue, man. And as always, guys, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.